year ago, wife and I took a trip to Vegas. We try and get there at least once a year. It's a very affordable vacation for half the cost anywhere else. You can go there and have a great time, see a ton of sights. We usually rent a car and drive around. We drove past Nellis Air Force Base, and we noticed past the base there was a bunch of ATV trails out there. So the next trip we took, we went there in a NASCAR race, and I wanted to try and find a place where I can rent an ATV so we can go ride in the desert. The problem is I'm an experienced rider, so I didn't want to ride no little 250cc, something that didn't have very good suspension on it. And I couldn't believe how hard it was to try and find a place that had decent performance quads to rent, because back home here in New York State, we ride a lot in Pennsylvania and some woods areas in the New York State area. We were experienced riders, so doing a lot of homework trying to find a place, it definitely took a lot of time. And I found this one place called ATV Cycle Sports in Las Vegas. Beautiful facility. Performance quads. I mean, they had everything from three-wheelers to dune buggies to side-by-sides. Plus, this guy's store was unbelievable. Probably one of the most impressive quad motorcycle stores I've seen, especially around New York. We don't typically get stores like this to this magnitude. He had all sorts. He had $20,000 quads just hanging or more from the ceiling. One was this Hayabusa, had a 1300cc motor in it. Listen to this thing. So we packed up and loaded up some machines here. He had this really cool modified Razor. So we had everything loaded up. We're heading out, maybe 15-minute ride out down the road, and the guy went with Steve Abbott, his name was. So we pulled in the Nellis Dunes and unloaded the machines and headed off. I was a little concerned that the guy that came with me, Steve, he was a little older than me, and I really wanted to go ride at a quicker pace, but after taking off here, I couldn't even keep up with Steve. So it was a good experience because he was definitely a good rider. We had an excellent time out there. I was wore out probably maybe 5-10 minutes in the ride because I'm pushing myself trying to keep up with him. But he was a great tour guide. Here we're driving out in the sandy areas. There's Nellis Dunes out there. I didn't realize, but there's actually sand dunes. Yeah, Vegas is desert, but I always saw a lot of rocky areas and never really any pure sand. And he took me out there, and it's like, wow, look at all this sand, and it's a very unique experience riding in the sandy conditions with the jumps and the drifts, because all the sand does is basically drift up. Here we pulled up to the top of this mountain, big pile of sand here, and he's great. Steve was a great tour guide. He's pointing out. You can actually see Lake Mead off to the left, off to the right. You can actually see the whole city of Vegas, along with the Air Force Base. The one thing that was really cool is while we're riding out here, jets are flying over. The Thunderbirds, F-16s are coming out of the mountainside doing all sorts of evasive maneuvers training, and B-2 bombers are flying overhead. It was really neat. So out here we're just flying around having a good time. Yeah, doing donuts in a quad and wheelies in the sand is very similar to snow riding, but obviously not as cold. And you don't have to worry about getting stuck because the sand has more of a density to it. Where you ride in snow, we just get stuck all the time up here. And the weather. So I went down there. The weather was about, I think at night it would get down to maybe 40. And right here while we're riding, it was probably about 68, 70 degrees, and this was in, I think it was February 20th, I think is when we went. This is me here, buzzing around and catching some air and doing some donuts. The machine I rode was a YFC 450. The thing had Fox float shocks on it, tuned up really nice, had a pipe on it. This machine ran nice. This is Steve Abbott right here. You can tell he's a very experienced rider. Definitely enjoys his ride. Wish I could ride like this. Some people might get a bad idea that we're damaging the environment doing this out in the sand. It's really not true, because a windstorm, the sand is totally clean again, and now all the riding you've done is gone. You can't even tell anybody was there. This is some of the ideas, a good idea of what type of riding, driving through some of these ravines and stuff and the scenery. This was a dune buggy he had custom made. It's actually made with a Polaris Razor engine. This thing was all welded up from an aircraft mechanic, Steve was telling me. This thing must have had 12 to 18 inches of suspension travel. Just really soaked up the bumps. Look at that suspension.
Suspension working on this thing.
This thing was impressive. If you ever get a chance to go for riding this thing, I highly recommend it. It is a blast.
That's freaking cool though, huh? You can't believe that shit, can you, huh?
Definitely what makes the ride more pleasurable is how good this thing was built, because of the suspension and the quality.
Freaking pretty brutal, huh? How it goes through that shit so freaking graceful, huh?
Yeah.
Hopped in this thing and took off. Here we're climbing a hill. You know, that hill we just climbed right there, I kid you not, was probably a good over 100 feet tall, and you can actually look off to the right and your left and get an idea how high we're up in the air right now. Definitely a scary experience. Get your adrenaline pumping. Take a look off to the left there and see how high we're up in the air. The video really doesn't do it justice, but man, it was some of these hills, it almost seems like you're just barely getting up to riding a machine like this. That hill off to in the background there, we're actually going to go down in there and go over top of that. That one right down there. So here we're actually driving up that hill you were just seeing in the background. Back down the hill, going through the bottom ravine here, going through some of the roughest terrain ever. You drove an ATV have a hard time driving through this stuff, and this thing was just unbelievable. These are Steve Abbott's toys. He used to race the quads. He raced Baja. I guess Honda. He worked with Honda. He gave some of his first 400 EXs to him for a development. All the quads he had were just high-end, chromed out. This is him in a movie standing on a bike and flying through the air. But thank you, ATV Cycle Sports. Had a great time. Hopefully to get down there again and ride again. Thank you again.